Once again, it's a pleasure to share my thoughts on what me and you can do for our nation. There's no doubt that we're in a mess and that the responsibility of sorting out this mess is for each one of us and all of us together collectively. What is it that we can do to fix this leadership crisis? Just reminding us, each one of us, that when we choose our leaders, 6 individuals during the general elections, that is the opportunity to fix the leadership crisis we are in. Take time and be very intentional as you pick your MCA, because your MCA and your governor are the people who will manage your county. The county government consists of the county assembly, the governor and the governor's appointee, that is the County Executive Committee, CEC. So if you don't get it right on the choice of the MCA for your ward, you have dropped the ball. If you don't get it right in picking the governor, you've dropped the ball. And even if the national government works well, you'll still be in a mess in your county, because the devolved functions, which include health, agriculture, water, rural access roads, and many other things, depend on the county government. Let us be very intentional as we pick the leadership, and we will transform Kenya, a county at a time, a ward at a time. So your ward matters, your county matters. Be very intentional. Be intentional when you pick your senator, because your senator is the one who will help you oversight the county government. The MCAs will pass the governor's budget. The MCAs will pass the county appropriation bill, that is the spending. The MCAs will also, at the first instance, oversight the governor. And the senator will, in a bigger way, oversight the governor, especially because the senator is not part of the county assembly. So when you pick a former governor as a senator, what does it mean? It means that the oversight for the period that person was governor will be hampered, because that person will be standing as a gatekeeper in Senate whenever scandals or queries that should be answered regarding their county is brought on the floor of the Senate. That is why I personally support the move to bring a bill that will bar governors from standing either as senators or members of parliament for at least 10 years after they leave office, so that we do not mess their accountability. Because being a watchdog is helping to raise the bar of accountability. Be very intentional when you pick your member of parliament, your constituency member of parliament. Because again, that person you're picking is the one who will lead in oversighting the national government. They will lead in allocating the spending by the national government. They will lead in allocating the money that will give you services. Be very intentional when you elect your woman rep for the county. The woman rep will be part of the accountability mechanism in the National Assembly to oversight, to approve spending, to approve taxation measures. For all these, before I go there, be very intentional when you choose the president, because the president will be the overall driver of the direction the country takes. The president will lead in the implementation and ensuring that the Constitution is adhered to, ensuring that development comes to you, ensuring allocation of the monies. Although he doesn't go to Parliament, it is his government giving the proposals. The president is the captain of this ship. Be very intentional. You need leaders who are not motivated by self-interest, by greed, by self-aggrandizement. You need leaders who have empathy, who will feel for the people. You need leaders of integrity, who will safeguard your interests and your resources, not leaders who will steal from you. The history of each individual, of the 6 individuals, is very important. Just like you wouldn't hire a driver for your vehicle without asking whether that driver has experience. And you want to know whether that experience includes accidents, whether that driver has been sacked in the previous employment for wrongdoing, whether that driver has traffic cases, and of what nature. You want the history. Similarly, you will not employ a milkman who has been sacked by your neighbor for stealing just a little bottle of milk to take to their child. You want somebody who has integrity. If we agreed that we want people of integrity to manage our individual affairs, why then do we allow people without integrity to manage our collective welfare, the nation? If you can't forgive that milkman for just half a liter of milk he stole for his child, why are we singing, dancing, and giving authority to people who have ruined our collective good by huge public scandals? There are people whose names are synonymous with almost every scandal in this country. There are people who have blood on their hands. There are people who in their previous assignments have shown they do not care for the people. People who are sacked from public jobs. Why do we give such people positions of responsibility once again? This was the discussion during last elections. And people said, we don't want history. Are you sure you do not want history? History is a testimonial. You may never have been in public service, but if you are a young man or woman, we want to know whether you have, how you have been interacting with your fellow youth. Have you been in a leadership position, even in a youth group, in a church choir? Did you show empathy? Are you able to relate with the people? Are you a person of integrity? Whatever space you have occupied before, can we have your testimonials? And your testimonials is your history. Most important of all, you will not be able to choose those those 6 leaders if you have not taken your voting card, if you have not registered to vote. Gen Z, my age mates, and those in between, By failing to vote, you're actually voting for the wrong team. If you didn't vote last time, you're part of those who have put us in this mess. If you voted and you are not intentional, we have a second chance. There'll be another election coming, and we start preparing now. Do you vote because of the values of that individual you vote for? Or do you vote because they gave you a cash handout? Where are they now? When you can't pay fees? When you are unemployed as a youth? When you're sleeping hungry? When you are in hospital with a bullet wound? Or when you are burying your brother or sister who was killed in the maandamano? Where are those handouts? And why are we picking handouts, some of us as Kenyans, to go and introduce violence and looting in people's demonstration? Why are you being paid to rise against your brother? Is that money enough even for this month? If it's food for one day, why don't you sacrifice the Gen Z who went out to demonstrate? Some of them were walking to the demonstrations. I saw on WhatsApp a person saying they walked from Rongai. People whose houses have been locked up by landlords because they had no money. People walking to express themselves to help their nation, not knowing where they will sleep or where the next meal will come. If we count all the hours put in by the Gen Z and anybody who went to demonstrate, anybody who assisted, that is like a monetary contribution to this nation. I salute this young generation for standing up for our nation. I salute everybody who stood with them. And I want to say it's not over until it is over. We have a lot to do for this country, in electing leaders, in nurturing value-based leadership, not transactional leadership, not guided by handouts. Thank you, Gen Z, for raising the issue of accountability in our religious institutions. God is not impressed by the amount of donation. You remember in the Bible that woman who gave 2 cents? And it is said, because of the heart, the motive for which she gave, and it was her all, she gave the most. So it's not about taking money to church. It is about what each leader stands for. Our religious leaders, kindly listen to our children. They have told you what we have been unable to tell you because we fear that you may campaign against us. Gen Z have broken the barriers. Are you listening? Am I listening, and are you listening? Are we all listening to our children? Gen Z have shown solidarity beyond ethnic, beyond geographical boundaries. When you have over 35 counties out, like it was reported, you have the entire nation and Dr. William Ruto and your regime. Do you realize that this actually amounts to a recall? That Kenyans exercising their sovereignty in Article 1 have recalled you 35 counties. You do not appear remorseful at all. You continue with your cabinet to congratulate the police for their excesses. You have owned the violence. You have owned the blood of Kenyans that has been spilled. Are you really going to change? Can we believe you? Fellow Kenyans, it's time we really became intentional in the election and selection of leadership in this country. And I mean leadership at all positions and at all levels. Even those the elections that just ended. Why do we need money to campaign to elect people who will look after the fruits of our sweat and toil. My fellow lawyers, why do we need money to campaign in law society elections other than a very small amount to traverse from one station to another? Why have we made every election about money? That is part of the leadership crisis we are in. Let us be guided by Article 10, by the best interests of this nation, and let us nurture leadership at every level. Let us transform Kenya, a county at a time, a ward at a time, a polling station at a time. Let us join hands. This is for us together. Thank you for listening. And this is a conversation we must have with one another, and we must continue having.